Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Adoptions from the Heart TV. I am excited to welcome Crystal and Everton, who are going to share their experience of building their family. So, welcome, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you want to first start by sharing what drew you to Adoptions from the Heart when you were deciding to build your family?
Honestly, that probably was more so my doing. I did some basic Google searches, and honestly, Adoptions from the Heart was one of the ones that came up, really one of the first results that came up from my search. And I just did an inquiry. It just all went from there, because honestly, it was a bit overwhelming in the beginning with all of the different options, and whether you want to do a private adoption or an open adoption, or you want to do foster and all of that. And so just from the website and all of that, I just decided to inquire.
A lot of families, when they're at the beginning stages, it can be overwhelming. Do you have any advice or pointers for folks when they're doing their research of like what questions to ask, or maybe something specific about an agency if they do end up going the agency route that they want to make sure that the agency does or has in terms of services or value system?
I mean, for me, I like the structure that seemed to be in place, especially with Adoptions from the Heart. I think that's going to be important. I feel like I finally have it together after so many years. You know, I definitely didn't when I was younger, but even that process was a little much. So I felt like that was a good, way of keeping my checks and balances. You know, I'll admit, when you think of the money that you got to throw out for something like that, it's intimidating, but it's really interesting how, and I've heard this before, it's just all worth it, and it's really not that big of a deal in the end. And so for me, I look back and I think it was totally worth having that, spending that money and having that guide and having the comfort and the structure, because it allowed us to really focus on, what we needed to focus for the adoption itself.
One thing I will add to that is that Adoptions from the Heart is able to service multiple states, which also is beneficial because it broadens your field, I guess, of opportunity when it comes to adoption. So that was another thing that I was impressed by, was the number of states that Adoption from the Heart services within.
No, I appreciate you guys giving that, because like I said, it can be hard to understand the different options, and to be blunt about it, it is an expensive process to adopt privately through an agency, but the fees you're paying for are the services that are given, right? And I think that it's important that you have a backbone to the path that you're taking, because it can be very overwhelming when you're looking to adopt. It's not as if you just walk into a room and a baby's placed in your hands. There's a lot that goes into it, many different layers, and making sure you have experienced professionals in your corner to guide you during that process can be really valuable. Talk to us about in process for you and what that looked like in terms of the education, the home study paperwork, all that you had to go through to get to the point of waiting for your daughter.
Honestly, it was, as you had mentioned before, it was quite a surprise to us. All of the, because you always hear about doing a home study and all of this, but it's a lengthy process. It's a lengthy process, and you do have to, just take it one step at a time and work through it. It took us almost a year just to be, like they say in the book, our thing to be active. So it took about a year of doing all the paperwork and the background checks and all the things that you have to do in order just to be able to be seen by potential families.
I think also that if it hadn't been so structured, I think it would have taken us longer. I think that it gave, there was like little milestones and little benchmarks that we had along the way that really helped. And I think what was important for me especially was with those benchmarks, we had the coursework. There was a lot of time to put things together and really contemplate what it was we were doing and the why. And I learned quite a bit. My view of adoption changed when we decided to jump into this, but it changed even more as I, went through and heard the testimonials from people. We actually met virtually with, some birth parents, and it was like, wow, this is this is a whole, like you were talking about layers before to adoption. There's a lot of layers to the process.
Right.
Yeah, let's jump into that, because again, I think folks get very anxious of, obviously the goal is to build your family and have a child, right? And understanding that the biological parents are the ones who are choosing you, maybe not really understanding the experience that a birth parent goes through and the sacrifice they make in choosing adoption. Talk to me about when you first came to us, how you felt about it versus how you feel today, because it's okay to not be fully, understanding of it in the beginning. And I think it's important for folks to hear that from people who have been through it.
I'll start with that one. I definitely was probably more of the traditional hardcore view when it comes to adoption, and not really fully understanding why people do it, and actually assuming the worst almost. And then you hear these cases and you're like, whoa, these people actually like really care about the child, and they're really trying to, put them in a good environment. It challenges you, because you're like, well, I gotta make good on this, again, more of that traditional, toxic view really on my end. And then as we went through it and heard people's stories, it was like, wow, this is cool. They're like really trying to set something up, in a positive way. And then also learning about open adoption even. I mean, that was something I never really considered until we got into the process, and how that could be beneficial to the kid. And well, I want the best for the kid, right? So that was something that I think together learned that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think you tend to place judgment on people, without knowing the story. But then when you hear different ones giving their testimonials as to why they made the decision that they made, you realize that like they have the utmost love for, their child, and they're just trying to do what is best for them. It does put things in perspective. It makes you made us have more of an open mind when going into it. And also, the open adoption thing is kind of scary, because you wonder how do you make that work? Are they gonna want to, take over or have too much input or whatever the case may be? And so you kind of like learn, what does it mean to have an open adoption, and how does it work? How do we integrate the two families together, if that's, how things actually pan out? So.
Well, and I think it's important for folks when they're thinking about open adoption to remember that for our agency, we don't go in and remove children. It's the birth parents coming to us voluntarily and choosing this plan, right? Making the sacrifice to say, I'm going to put my own feelings of wanting my child versus what's in the best interest of my child, and choosing placement. Because when you understand that viewpoint or that perspective, it switches your mindset from, well, are these people going to want to come back and take this kid again, right? What is openness going to look like? How can I have a trusting relationship with these people? Will they want to come back and take our child? And that's only natural to feel that way. But I think the more that you understand the concept of them choosing this for their child as opposed to somebody else choosing it for them, it can help folks in embracing openness and realizing that it is in fact in the best interest of the child to have some sort of understanding, potentially, a relationship or a connection to their birth story. Talk to us about what life looks like for you today. You were placed with your daughter over a year ago. What your relationship is like with her birth family, and what openness is like for you.
It's been, we're open. But I think right now that's not necessarily where birth mom is. We still send the updates, and we do all of those things, and we have made it known that we're here and ready and available to have a meeting if that's what she wants. But at this point, it doesn't seem like that's where she is in the process yet.
Knowing that, and knowing that you guys still keep that door open, that's still part of the open adoption philosophy, right? So even though the birth parent may choose to not want openness right now, or maybe even if you have openness right now and down the road your birth parent goes through something and takes a pause and a step back, your commitment to openness is knowing that you're always going to keep that door open if and when they want to come through. And it sounds like for you guys, you're fully prepared and wanting the openness if and when she's ready.
Correct.
And what are the things that you plan on teaching your daughter about her birth family?
We got a chance to spend a little bit of time with the birth mom, early on when she was born. So just some of the characteristics about her that we admire. Number one, she's like a strong young person, very decisive, very much knows what she needs, what she's capable of. And so we want to let her know that that's the kind of person that her birth mom is. And hopefully one day she'll get a chance to experience that for herself.
Yeah.
Birth mom is way more mature than I ever could have been at that age. And I think a lot of that comes with, background and experience. And another reason why I think we're really cool with being open and we don't look at we don't have the full connection outside, through the agency, but why we don't look at that as a negative is because she's busy. Like I have a lot of respect for, her choice to create the adoption plan. I know things are busy and I have a feeling, things will change in the future. Out of respect for that, it's like,
Well, and continuing to still send your picture and letter updates. Some birth parents opt to take them, some opt to not, and ask that the agency holds them for when they're ready. And I will tell you that I have witnessed many birth parents 5, 10, 15 years later come back and say, I'm ready now. Do you still have those photos that I think you're holding for us? And to be able to go into a room and bring out a box filled with pictures and letters of children from the last, 5+ years, you can just see a birth parent's face light up of like, wow, this family really committed to the promise that they made me. And that's what this is all about, right? Because if it wasn't for those birth parents making the choice for placement, you wouldn't be the family that you are. And I think it's important for people to keep that as the foundation of what they do moving forward in terms of parenting. Any other thoughts or things you would like folks to know who are, again, open to open adoption, but still feeling cautious or a little worried? Do you have any advice for families who are in the waiting process?
Just stick with it and keep going. Our process took a while, and along the way, we experienced somewhat of a disappointment the summer prior. And it's pretty tough, but at the same time, it's like there's a time for everything, and the time isn't bad. It's good for, reflecting that situation might have been in the best interest for that child, and that's cool. You know what I mean? And so just stick with it, and don't get disheartened. It's easy to get disheartened along the way with the work that goes into it. The money it can be a big deal for a lot of people, and then also just feeling like, we're not really making any headway. But ultimately, she is worth it, and I would wait 10 years for her. So
yeah, I was gonna say the same thing. If somebody is deciding whether they want to do it, just do it. Just get started, because the process is going to be probably longer than one would imagine in the beginning. But to also just stick with it, like Everton said, and don't watch the clock, in other words, or don't just live your life. Keep doing what you were doing. Keep going on vacation and doing the things, and time will just go, and before you know it, you'll get that call that your child is waiting for you. So just keep going, stay positive, and don't watch the clock.
Well, we appreciate you guys. I think it's always nice for folks to hear from people who have been through it. It gives them hope. We're really happy for you and your daughter, and we wish you well.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in, and please check out future episodes.